Good evening, friends and neighbors, and welcome to another meeting of the Stayton City Council. It is a business meeting. It is Monday, the 1st of November, All Saints Day, and it's 7 p.m., and we're here at the Community Center and ready to go to work. So, would all of you, to start off with, would you join me in the flag salute, please? Here we go, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. Okay. Oh, are there any additions to the agenda? Any declaration of ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, bias? Nothing? Okay. No appointments this evening. And under public comments, a lady named Beth Jones from Turner would like to make a comment. So go ahead and welcome.
Hello, thank you. My name is Beth Jones, and as you said, I live in Turner, and I'm running for state representative for our new House District 17. And I don't know if you've all had a chance to look at the new boundary lines, but they're shaken up a bit. I used to be in District 19 with Raquel Moore Green, and she's done a great job for us, but now I'm in District 17 where there's no incumbent. So here I am. Are you all familiar with CIS, City County Insurance Services? So I'm a litigator for CIS. That's my trade. And I have served on Dallas City Council. So I have a unique perspective on what cities are dealing with from the city council point of view and from a litigation point of view. And I'm very passionate about local government in Oregon. So I gave you all my card there. It has my website, my Facebook page is up, and there is more information than you could ever want on my website. I don't hide anything. I don't even think my husband made it through it all. So I'm happy to be here and see what y'all are doing. I've been following the fire district levy, and I'll be watching that Wednesday to see how that goes. And do y'all have any questions?
Oh, I have lots, but I don't know if this is enough time.
Okay, well, I'll hang out afterwards if you want to say hi.
Well, if you were on the Dallas City Council, was Representative Neerman, was he Dallas's?
He was our representative, and that brings up an interesting topic. One of my favorite days on City Council was Capitol Day. And he wasn't a representative when I was on council. It was actually Jim Thompson. And Senator Boquist was always our senator. But during Capitol Days, when I was on City Council, I loved going up to the Capitol and talking to the legislators about our local issues. And something that disappointed me on City Council is I never saw them. I did not see my legislators outside of Capitol Day. I had to go to them. And something I would do different as a legislator is reach out to all the city councils at least once a year and more if invited for something special. But I think it's really important to have that communication between the legislators, the commissioners, the city councilors, the mayors. Like, you need those layers of communication to advocate the best, and that's something I'm really passionate about.
Have you ever visited, what's his name? He's the mayor of Dallas.
Brian Dalton.
Brian Dalton.
Of course I've visited Brian Dalton.
Have you ever been in that house?
I have been to many Christmas parties at Dalton's house.
Isn't that a wonderful
It is
place?
beautiful.
It's wonderful, yeah.
Yeah, my husband's also a military man, so they've connected.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
House District 17, is that Jamie Cates' district?
Well, right now it is.
Okay.
And what happened with the new lines is now she's going to be south of us, and she'll have Lebanon and Sweet Home, and the area south. The new District 17 line goes just south of Stayton, north of Scio.
Okay.
So, yeah, you'll have to take a look. It's kind of a rectangle through the canyon from East Salem neighborhoods through the canyon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought that those house districts were pretty much the same, but no, okay.
Well, it's
Good.
all different again for another
Thank
10
you.
years.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you so
And
much.
I'll hang out and listen, and if you want to talk afterwards, I'm here.
Thank you.
It's either that or go home and do homework.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you folks know that CIS is our city insurer, so, yeah. Okay, all right. Oh, that was fun, for me anyway. Public comment. Consent agenda for October 18th. Let's see, where is it? Where are you?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Counselor?
I'd like to make a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. All right,
Seconded.
and a second, a motion to accept the consent agenda as published, as presented, thank you. Okay. Melissa, would you poll the council, please?
Sure. Counselor Ort?
Yes.
Counselor Hook?
Yes.
Counselor McDonald?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you. No public hearings tonight. Under general business, an executive session, news media attendance policy. And Alyssa, you've got the staff presentation. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll kick us off, but I really don't have much to add to the staff report. This came before you at the September 20th meeting from our former city manager, Keith Campbell, and you guys had many questions following that meeting, and so we sent those questions off to our city attorney, Ross Williamson, and he is actually on the Zoom tonight. He put together the draft that with the markup edits based on some of the comments that came out of the last meeting. And so he is here on the Zoom, and I'll have him pop on and answer any questions you might have.
Okay, should we let him make a statement first and then?
We definitely can.
Question? Let's do that.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. So I'll just dive in with a little short introduction. As Alyssa said, Keith drafted up this policy for you all. And it really, so it goes back to our public meetings and public records laws, which were drafted around the same time back in the 1970s. This provision having to do with members of the media and their ability to attend certain executive sessions was in the original legislation. It has been tweaked over the years, but it largely stays the same from the 1970s. And despite the age of this provision, we really don't have any case law on it. So I guess I will say that in Oregon, we have no definitive guidance on who is a member of the news media under this provision, and how do we determine that? What we do have is some looser guidance, and that's from our Attorney General. Our Attorney General wrote a very thorough opinion on this issue about 5.5 years ago or so. And then our League of Oregon Cities has done a little work on this of their own, and they put together a model policy. And so basically what I did after seeing the comments that you all made to Keith in September, I took Keith's general structure, his general format, and then harmonized it with my interpretation of the Attorney General's opinion. And so basically what that means, it's okay to require someone from the news media to let you know that they are a member of the news media, and to show a credential or show some kind of evidence that they actually are a member of the news media. And so what this policy does is it gives staff and the council a little bit of a framework to make that decision. It's not black and white because we really don't have that guidance from a court yet. What you will see is I took out the requirement that there be some standard of proof that the news media has to make in order to attend. I left it pretty loose, and I guess maybe vague is another word to say. If they present some evidence to you that shows that they are a member of the news media and that that they work for an institutionalized news media agency or entity, then I think we probably need to let them in. I also took away the provisions that Keith had for a pre-meeting application process and certain timelines. And I think the Attorney General and the League of Oregon Cities would agree with that we need to take those away. And so if someone shows up at your meeting on the day or at the night, right when your meeting starts, and they present you with evidence that they're a member of the news media and work for an institutionalized news media organization, then that basically gives you two choices. You can either let them in, or you can not have your executive session and continue it to another meeting. I don't believe that we can put requirements on them that they have to present this information so many hours ahead of time or so many days ahead of time. I don't think we can really require them to use a certain form. So that is why you will see why in the track changes version that you have in the packet, I took all that out. And so what we are left with, if you were to see a non-track changes version of this, is a fairly short, I think it's just about 2 pages of a policy that just kind of puts the structure on this, gives staff and the council a little bit of guidance in how to determine whether someone is a member of the news media and whether they work for this what's called an institutionalized news media organization. And other than that, it's pretty short and sweet. And again, like I said, based largely on the Attorney General opinion and largely also on the League of Oregon Cities model policy.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ross. Let's go to questions, councilors.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
First off, thank you so much, Ross, for fixing this policy. I really appreciate it. I think it covers pretty much everything that I had a concern with. The only thing that I still have a question on is that we're still recognizing specific news media entities and labeling them. Is it really best policy for us to put in like a business name that could, we would have to come back and revise this every time that a news organization closes, or we want to recognize somebody else in here. So do we need to have those 3 recognized in the policy, or can we just have a list at the office that says, and the policy actually just says, please refer to the list that's currently held at the City of Stayton office?
Great question. And what so I didn't change things in Keith's draft that I didn't think needed to be altered. And so I left that provision in, but you laid out the 2 options that you have as a policy body. I think having the list is okay because these are obvious news organizations in your area. These are your frequent flyers, so to speak. But we could certainly take them out and just say a list is maintained by staff at City Hall. Either of those is fine. I don't believe a list is bad. As drafted, I don't believe this is a problem.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Others? Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Councilors, go ahead.
Thank you. Ross, so in here, we've added, or it's added institutional news media instead of just news media. How does that, so there are a lot of independent news media, so how do we distinguish between those, or is that something like a sticking point? Is that going to be a sticking point where, how do we describe an institutional news media or entity? Yeah, news media entity.
Yeah, so great question. And that's pulled right from the Attorney General's opinion. And so the Attorney General uses that phrase, institutional news media entity. And in her opinion, and that's drawn from statute as well. And so in her opinion, this was intended to provide for entities as we think about corporate entities or business entities. Back in the day, it was newspaper entities and media entities. And as time has moved on, we have other entities that produce news. But at the end of the day, the statutory allowance is for these entities. So if you have an individual, let's just pick a hypothetical, an individual blogger who has an interest in city business, but they are just working out of their home. They have no corporate status. They have no business status. I believe the Attorney General would say that person, that individual, is not an institutionalized news media organization and would not fall within the statute. And so what this policy does is just flesh that out a little bit. And in section 4 of that provision of the policy, we provide some ways that an entity could be recognized. Basically, if you show us that you're part of a corporate entity that has at its core business, or at least one of its arms of business, the gathering and distribution of news media.
Thank you.
So, Ross, and I'm only familiar with this as something I've heard about and kind of been around, something like these podcasts that are more and more popular. Those would be institutionalized, aren't they? Pretty much, rather than just blogs where I blow steam at whoever wants to listen, which is almost no one.
So I think it could go both ways. I think, technology is such that anyone with a phone can create a podcast. And so but you also have some institutional podcasts. And so you have some big money podcasts. And so the line is kind of gray. It's in between those two. But I think if a podcaster comes forward and says they are part of an entity that at its one of its aims, one of its lines of business is the dissemination and gathering of information about the city or city government, and they are not just a single person, that they are part of an entity, then they would probably fit within this policy.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions, thoughts?
Yeah,
Counselor?
I just wanted to clarify that in the event that it was, let's say, the podcaster, they would have to be then a member of the Oregon Association of Broadcasters or Associated Press. We clearly wouldn't be sending them notices. But then the only way that they would really qualify was if they were doing like local government podcasting. That's kind of where am I understanding that right? I just want to make sure that it all makes sense to me.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm happy to answer these questions. So these are the provisions under subsection 4A are joined by the or. So they can present a press badge, or they can be, I'm sorry, no, I guess it's under subsection 3C, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, yeah, so I'm sorry, yes, you're right. That's right. So if someone has a line of business that reports on city government, or reports particularly on an issue that is before the city government. So it can be either of those things. And that's straight from the Attorney General's opinion as well. And so if someone's news entity gathers news and distributes it, and their line of business is reporting on government in general, then they would be allowed to attend an executive session on anything at the city. but say that they are instead an entity that focuses primarily on water quality. And so that water quality issues don't come up all the time for the city, but they do come up from time to time. And so if you hold an executive session that relates to water quality, then that individual who specializes in that area of news would be able to attend that executive session.
Awesome. Thank you. You did a very nice job on this policy, and I hope that other cities will look at ours and adopt it, because I saw a lot of really sad ones out there.
I appreciate that. And I hope I'm explaining it well.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts, or shall we move toward some consideration of this? Well, we are. We've done that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
are we on to like where I can make a motion?
certainly.
Do we want
I'm ready.
We didn't do,
discussion, right?
we didn't do public comment.
Oh, public comment. Okay.
I'm sorry.
We didn't do public comment.
There public comment on that?
Yeah.
We stuck public comment in all these, everything anymore, huh?
Yeah, it's in the council rules.
Wonderful. Okay. Is there any public comment on this executive session news media attendance policy? Anyone? No? Okay. Council discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I am extremely excited that we have public comment with all of those things. We worked hard for that.
You were expecting a crowd here, huh?
No, just like to have people having the opportunity to speak.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't have anything, but I'm ready to make a motion if
Go ahead, if you would.
anyone else has anything they want to say. Okay, well, I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 1031 as amended, where we remove the recognized institutional news media entities from the list and instead reference that we hold the list at, the staff holds the list at the City of Stayton office. That way our policy is always up to date and we don't have to come in and revise it
So-
if something happens.
Let me see if I'm going to make sure it isn't necessary I understand it, it helps once in a while. On the bottom of that first page, that whole section 1, 2, that recognized news media, just take that whole thing out?
Nope, just instead of having them listed out, just reference instead that the list is kept at the office by staff.
Okay. Okay, all right. Got that one. Others?
Seconded.
Okay. Motion and second to approve the, motion to approve resolution number 1031 with modifications as noted. And Alyssa, question? Oh, okay.
I'm just ready whenever you are.
Is there any other discussion? Okay.
I guess it really doesn't matter either way, right? If it's actually in here or if it's,
In the office.
if we have a list of it.
Exactly, it's there and the staff will keep it up to date and that way
Just keep it up
we don't have
date.
to bring it back all the time
Yeah. Okay.
if something happens to one of
You
them.
okay?
Yep.
All right. Let's go to a vote on this then, please. Alyssa, would you poll the council, please?
Sure. Counselor McDonald,
Yes.
Counselor Hook,
Yes,
Counselor Ort.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you. And next item is Executive Recruitment Agency's request for proposals. And again, Alyssa, back to you.
All right.
And
Well-
Ross, thanks for the help on that to this extent anyway. Okay, go ahead, Alyssa.
Thanks, Ross. Well, good evening again, Mayor and Council. So before you tonight, we have, the management team has brought forward our review of the Executive Recruitment Agency's request for proposals. As I mentioned in the staff report, we received 4 proposals, one from Jensen Strategies, Strategic Government Resources, Slavin Management Group, and Avery Associates. Overall, we had sent the request to send us a proposal to 12 agencies and had only received the 4 I mentioned. I brought the management team together so that we just had everybody's input to really review these proposals and score them based off of the questions that are included in the packet, which we had used in the past and I had gathered from other local government entities that had also went through this recruitment process. So I asked management team, myself included, to go ahead and score all of the proposals included that we received. And as you'll see, Jensen Strategies did score the highest on all of our point scales. There was one concern raised by staff about Jensen Strategies' proposal. It was that as we got into the finalist interviews, the management team was not included as a panel or even included on any panels. And so I reached out to them and asked them, are you willing to make modifications to your scope of work? And they said, absolutely. Well, we can accommodate however is needed for the city. And so wanted to make sure of that going into this and before I made any kind of recommendation on behalf of the management team. So as far as fiscal impact, it looks to be around, so it's $25 for professional fee. And then there's estimated expenses of $5,000, which cover advertising, background checks, document printing, the travel of the consultants. And additionally, if we had out-of-state candidates, the city would be responsible for those fees as well.
I think you meant to say $25,000, not $25.
Sorry.
Okay.
20,
All right.
that would be a great deal.
That would be.
But I might be questioning what kind of deal we're getting.
More zeros.
So $25,000 for the professional fee, estimated expenses $5,000, and then on top of that, up to $5,000 for out of. Okay, we're back. So a potential of $35,000 for the recruitment. And as I mentioned in here, it is an unanticipated cost that we didn't budget for. I have talked with Susanna, who's going to be giving us a budget update, at least for the end of the last fiscal year, but we'll be coming back with another one. But she's monitoring, and right now it doesn't look like a budget adjustment will be necessary. But if there is, we'll be on top of it and we'll bring that back. And so our recommendation as a management team was to award the contract for executive recruitment to Jensen Strategies with modifications to their scope of work. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Alyssa, do you have a record of which recruiting outfit we used last time?
We did not use a recruitment agency the last time.
How did we do that?
It was all done at a staff level, similar to how we would do a normal, any position at the city. And so it really was handled at a staff level. We put it out and we advertised it on a couple, like the ICMA website, and I think that might be how Keith found it.
Oh, okay.
But we did not use an agency. And I was here for that recruitment, and being a part of it, it went fine, but I would definitely think having an outside agency who can really do the legwork and has those connections to reach out would be beneficial.
I certainly thought we got lucky
Yeah, and
on
there's,
that. But just that ICMA, the right person would have to hit
and
that, yeah,
the
okay.
recruitment agency is going to do a lot for us, where they're going to help us sit down and figure out, they're going to, like, part of Jensen's proposal is to have stakeholder interviews with council and staff and the city attorney, and they will try to pin down what is it that we are looking for, and they will create that position description so that we really go out with a targeted description of who we're looking for to fill this position. Because it's got a job description per se in the code, but that doesn't say what we're looking for
Okay, good, thank you. Questions, thoughts?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Alyssa, I was curious if it's during like those stakeholder interviews that we could bring up things like that we would like them to, hopefully, the ideal candidate would be part of like a professional organization, like what Keith was a part of, because that brought a lot of tools with him. I mean, tons of it. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we revamped at the city were ICMA standards.
Yes,
So-
yes, absolutely. And that will be when they're talking to us, that'll be stuff that they'll be recording down.
And
as,
is that something that as a management staff, you guys kind of came to that conclusion too, that you were wanting something like that?
I think so. We haven't gotten into those
Okay.
specific discussions as a staff, but I can tell you, I know that someone who's got the professional it would be fantastic to get a credentialed manager. Don't know, how likely that is or
Right.
not, but I think we all could agree to get in a professional manager who's been in local government for several years will be beneficial to keep moving us forward. Because I feel like we have moved forward a lot as a city during the time that Keith was here. And so we need to keep moving in that direction and moving the organization forward even more.
I agree. Were there any like concerns or anything that staff came up with other than just the fact that they didn't want, or that they didn't have it in their model to have staff at the panel interviews?
I think that was the biggest concern. I can't think of anything else. I think we solved other questions that came up, like, will they expand outside of Oregon in their search? Those kinds of questions came up from some of the management team. But I think that we answered some of those questions internally, that while they may be based locally, that they will look outside of Oregon also.
Good, because we're going to need to, because everybody needs city managers right now.
There are a lot of, and that's also potentially why we didn't get more proposals and I know that actually there's a couple who did email me back and say, we just don't have the bandwidth to do it right now, because they're running a lot of recruitments.
Lots of cities looking for help, Other questions and thoughts? Thanks, Alyssa, at this point on this. Thank
Sure.
you. Had, question for you, had any or many of the staff been through a manager recruitment process before in other cities, other jobs they'd had?
I know Dan was here at Stayton when we did the recruitment, but it wasn't with an executive firm. I don't think,
Dave.
Dave may have, yeah. He may have,
Okay.
potentially. I'm not 100% sure, though.
Lance, ever involved in anything like this?
No, I come from the private sector.
I'm sorry.
Oh, he'd come from the private sector.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I knew that. Thanks, though. Questions and thoughts? What would you folks like to do with this? We pick one of these groups, we move the process along. Go ahead, please.
And we have public comment.
Public comment. I'm not willfully ignoring that, but I guess I am ignoring it. Public comment. Anyone have a comment on this process at this point? Assigning and hiring a recruitment firm to find us a new city manager. Okay, nothing?
One question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, please.
Alyssa, just out of curiosity, were the fees offered generally the same between all the candidates?
They were all pretty much in the same ballpark.
Okay.
Are we in council discussion, Mr. Mayor?
Yes. I am.
Awesome. I just wanted to say that I'm really glad that the management team all got together to go over this. I think it's really important to have them involved in as much of it as they want to be involved in, because they're the ones that have to work with this person every single day. So their opinion of this person matters, and the process that they get selected matters. I think the more transparent that the process is for them, the more likelihood that we'll have hopefully no staff turnover, which is kind of my hope. I want to keep everybody. So thank you, Alyssa, and to the team for going through these and giving us a recommendation, because I trust your guys' opinion on this, and I've looked them over and I agree.
What shall we do?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to have staff, to have staff schedule a city council special session to hear presentations. Wait, is that really right?
No.
I don't want to hear presentations.
We want to hear presentations from all of them,
Here it is, sorry. No.
please.
I'd like to make a motion to award the recruitment of a new city manager to Jensen Strategies.
Ah, okay. There we go. Okay.
Counselor Hook, if I may.
Is that?
A motion to direct staff to enter into an agreement with Jensen Strategies. Right?
And did we want to modify the scope of work
Oh.
at all?
Oh, I rescind my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
Yes.
to make a motion
Okay.
to direct staff to enter into an agreement with Jensen Strategies with the following amendments to the agency's scope of work, which is to make sure that the management team is included in the interview process for the panel interviews.
okay. Okay, so, I just wrote them with additions. Is that good enough, or what would you?
I have the
You got
detail,
it?
yes.
Okay, all right. I've got a motion. Is there a second, please?
A second.
I've got a motion and a second to direct staff to enter into an agreement with Jensen Strategies with the following amendments to the agency's scope of work, as noted. There we go. That's just for me. Okay, discussion. Nothing?
Good.
We're good?
Good.
Would you pull the council, please, Alyssa?
Sure. Counselor Hook,
Yes.
Counselor Ort,
Yes.
Counselor McDonald,
Yes.
motion passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you. And I think, okay, fiscal year, next item of business, fiscal year 2021, year-end financial report as of June 30th, 2021. Susanna, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Let me get this.
When we're all done, there's a public comment in here, but that's down the road.
And
Perfect.
while she's getting that ready, I forgot to delete action from this. This is not an action item, it's informational, so
Okay.
I told Susanna I would point that out tonight.
Well, so we have to come back and do it again?
No, there's
No.
nothing to consider, it's just an informational presentation.
Okay,
Where's mine?
okay. Susanna, go ahead, when you're ready.
Hold on, I'm sharing the screen so our viewers can see it. There it is. Okay.
Okay, where is she?
Okay. Everyone can see that okay?
Yep.
Can I bring that? Okay.
Yeah, this is informational. Okay.
Yeah, would you? Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, now we got technology ready so the viewers can see what you're seeing. I have to get back to the right screen. Oops, I'm on the wrong direction. Hold on. More technical difficulties. What did I do that for? Let's go back to the beginning of the presentation. Okay. All right, so this evening I am, as Alyssa said, this is just an informational session only. I'm here to present to you year-end results. These are unaudited actuals. We're still in the process of doing the audit right now. So these are the numbers as they stand for the year end of this last fiscal year that just ended June 30th. So we're going to be talking about going through the format of the financial report that was in your packet. Take a look at the year-end revenue and compare it to last year, as well as the expenditures, and just kind of take a look at those step by step. So as a recap, in your packet, you have your financial report. And in that financial report, the first year, the first column in the peachy color is always comparing the same date to last year to the blue, which is the current. So this report is comparing the total fiscal year of 1920 as of June 30th of 20 against June 30th of 21 for the fiscal year that just ended. And then you'll have the white column for which is what the budget was for last year, and then the difference that goes. So this is the report as it reads all the way down. So those are your columns that you are looking at that was in your packet. Oops. How does it go so? Sorry, I need a mouse. I'm used to a mouse. I'm not very good at. You might want to get me one or I'll be doing this all night. Sorry. And I still booped it. Okay, so we'll just show off the whole presentation. As much as I'm good at technology. Oh, it's pink even. Cute. All right. Get back to the right side. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So, as I've done in your quarterly reports before, I've used the red light, green light scenario for taking a look. We're comparing budget to actuals, and are we on track? Are we at risk for going over? But when we're at year end, it's a whole different ballgame. So the red light, green light means it has a little different meaning at this point. So you'll notice in your packet that I really changed your numbers quite a bit when I said what was red. So your red is 91% and above of budget spent. And it's really red because that's probably the first place I'm going to go take a look at why did we almost spend 100% of the budget. Was there some one-time expenses, some things that have happened, or is there a trend here that I'm going to really need to be addressing in budget time and looking at the 5-year forecast? So that's kind of that's kind of why that's there, and that's why it's red. So we really got to know for sure what that's doing. And even though yellow is your 81 to 91%, it's still kind of the same thing. I mean, that's about where our budgets averagely land anyway. But it's still, we do kind of do the same exact process, just make sure that we've on track, that we didn't under project, or if we missed some things, or so we can kind of get a feel. And then the green is everything that's under 80%. And for this special budget, all of you saw that the majority of our funds were green is because the management team was very proactive when we went through this fiscal year, because we just came out of the deepest part of the pandemic. Even though the pandemic's over and we saw huge decreases, we really weren't sure what was going to happen this year. So we followed suit with the same proactive, we're only going to spend what we need to spend, and that's why you're seeing such a low expenditures to budget and so much green. It's because we just didn't do a lot of things. We stayed focused on essential service only, restructured where we could restructure, and left a lot of vacancies, and staff took up extra duties to keep the city moving forward, but protecting the funds with so much uncertainty. So that's kind of why you're seeing the colors the way you're seeing them as you look through that report. Any questions on that so far?
Yeah, Susanna, I don't want to give the wrong vibe if anyone's actually looking at this, that that you guys can continue to function at these low levels. Would it be correct to say that it was not easy to function at this low of, with not spending as much money as you normally would, and to have to take on all of these extra duties for everyone?
No, it was extremely hard. I have a lot of staff that is extremely tired and fatigued from doing 2 and 3 jobs. We're trying to fill the vacancies now for some of them. Most of us couldn't take our vacation times at all. We've had to make special arrangements for that because we've just had to keep going. The management team has done every job in our team would do. I'm an expert now at answering the phone and utility questions, as well as Lance is out there with boots on the ground taking on things. All of us have just jumped in and said, what do we need to do to keep things going? So, and held back on projects that needed and, things like that. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that was recognized because, we don't see you guys every day or anything, but, we just get these pieces of paper and I don't want, someone to look at it and go, well, why don't we always spend that way? Well, because we probably wouldn't have anyone working at the city anymore if we continued to do it that way forever.
We will lose, we would lose staff.
So thank you
Retired.
to all of you for not just the ones in the room, but all the city staff for all the sacrifices that you guys have made these last couple of years. It's been rough everywhere, and I can only imagine local government probably a little bit worse.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for adding that. That is very true. So as a reminder, when we wrote this budget, we flatlined our revenues, projected 0 growth, even some areas reduced revenues. We didn't fill vacancies. We focused on just the bare minimums. So as we walk through the results of this fiscal year, keeping that in mind, that was our mindset, what we needed to do to make sure we didn't go into any real negative situations so we can maintain city. Oops. So overall, the revenues that came in, and this is a pie of all revenues combined for all of city funds. As they all come in, 51% of our money was for charge for service, 25% was came from taxes, 13% from intergovernmental, and all the little small miscellaneous revenues add up to 13% of the total budget. So that's the breakdown of how the revenue we received. And then the next slide, it shows you the actual, for those same categories, the differences from last year to this year. And I'm going to go through each category one by one and highlight stronger the differences. But you can see taxes came in a little bit higher than last year. Charge for service came in a lot higher than last year. Intergovernmental also came in higher. And then other revenues was actually the only one that came in lower than last fiscal year.
Susanna?
Yes.
Or Mr. Mayor? So when we were looking, and I know that you don't have a crystal ball, but in your opinion, so when we were kind of in the middle of 2020 and we were talking about taxes and whatnot, property taxes, the concern was that we were going to see, what's the word I'm looking for, but that like the ripple effect was going to happen like in later years. Are we still anticipating that to happen?
We did see a decrease, and I have that 2 slides coming. We did have a loss in our property taxes fiscal year. That was not the same as last year, even though this says the revenue came in more. We did lose. So far, the experts are saying at this point, we just need to keep a close eye on our city specifically for property taxes. Okay, keep an eye on the businesses, see what's closing, what's extra struggling. So I've been kind of keeping an eye on that. So far, I haven't seen any giant red flags, but we also under budgeted property tax again this year, just in case. So.
Thank you.
Susanna, what happens to, because I see, in the total revenue received, the 693,000, what happens to that overage that comes in that we weren't expecting? Like, where does that all go?
The 690.
So, because it says like in our actuals for taxes, we brought in 2,895,000.
Right.
But we had only budgeted, like structured, what we were going to spend at 2,717,000. So then when you go over to the variance and you look at the total revenue received, it looks like we brought in 693,000 more than what we had budgeted.
So the first one, the 2.7 million is what we received last fiscal year. And this fiscal year, we received 2.8. We budgeted at 2.7, so we received 177,000 more than we actually budgeted. That ends up increasing our beginning fund balances. And you can see our beginning fund balance last year was at 10 million, and this year it's at 11. It was 10.8, now it's 11.3. Those increases over budget is in those beginning fund balances.
Okay, so it like just rolls. Okay, thank
So
you.
this fiscal budget, we're actually going to start out a little better off than we even anticipated, which is nice.
Is that why we probably aren't all that concerned about like the city manager fee that was unanticipated, or?
A combination of that, because we so underspent in the admin portion of the general fund, but we also, with the loss of one salary completely because of the change in temporary those months, and then by the time we actually get the position hired, it'll be so close to the end of the fiscal year that the loss in revenue or the loss in salary from the vacant position against what we'd be paying is pretty small. So we should still come under budget in our salaries because of that. Does that make sense? Did I
Yes,
explain that right? Okay.
It makes total sense. I'm curious about, I had seen a report, I can't remember where it was from. I got it from Keith before he left, but I don't remember where it came from. But it looked at like 23 different cities and what they pay their city managers that are similar to our cities, and that we were like 22 out of 23. Like we're that low on the list of how poorly we compensate our city manager. I'm wondering if with these savings that we are getting from not having a city manager, does that give us any wiggle room to improve the total compensation package?
Yes, that should. And then because I start building budget in January and the team starts moving forward with that, I'll be putting in those higher numbers that we think would be more competitive for the recruitment of a city manager, and I'll be able to use those numbers to compare. And this extra money that we didn't spend in the general fund this year will help us with that, and then as I project it out going forward.
Excellent. So that's something that you already are going to like look into so that we can hopefully come with a more competitive.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
I'm
'Cause I don't
already
think we'll get
building
very
the
good.
salary one, if that makes you feel any better.
We won't get very good candidates for you guys to choose from if we don't offer something better than where we're at right now.
Yes, so that's what we're doing.
And yet, folks, if we were to go out and just ask people in our community and show them that number, however low it is, they would many would say, well, that's incredible. How can you pay somebody that much? Maybe the ex-president, but no one around here.
The management team takes on a heavy amount of stress and responsibility because we carry a lot of weight. And then none of us really know what 40-hour week means. And so you're compensating for their passion and commitment to your community and and all the willingness we go through as a team to ensure that the city's taken care of.
Yeah, I want to make it real clear to anyone that's watching too, or that might watch later, that part of what you pay for in a city manager is the political nature of it too. You have councils come and go, and you have community uprisings that want everyone to fire the city manager. I mean, Keith went through a couple of those. I know that, he had even threats to him. So it's not an easy job. and you're kind of the figurehead of the entire city. So whether you made the mistake or not, you're at the top. So
It's
I want
all our
people to
fault.
think about that when they think, oh, that's way too much to be paying someone in a total compensation package. And you don't have to do it all with salary either. You can do it with other types of incentives too, to bring it up a little bit. But I just hope people understand that no, we don't want to be paying so much for a position. But if we want someone good to come in here and lead the city and not have staff turnover, which costs a lot of money to recruit and hire, then we need to make sure that we're paying them well and that we're getting good people in here. I think I read that, a top executive, if you lose them, it costs, if they make like $100,000, it costs like almost $200,000 by the time you get the next one fully trained and hired and recruit, like the whole recruitment process. It's a ridiculous amount of money. So we don't want to do it bad. We want to do the right thing.
No, and,
Suzanne.
okay.
Good stuff, yep.
So taking a look at the property tax itself, we ended up with collect a 95% collection rate of what our assessed value was against what we collected. So that was really good because it was really, and a lot of those revenues came in really late. And I think it's a combination of a lot of incentives that were out there to help people. So, and we ended up, because we flatlined a little bit above budget, we ended up receiving 2.1 and we budgeted a flat 2 million. So that was great. And last year for the 20, we also had the 95% collection rate. So far that's holding really nice. And the levy came in a little bit above budget as well with only a 92% collection rate, where last year we had a 96% collection rate. So a little bit less on the levy tax, but all in all, a much more successful collection rate than I anticipated. So I was glad to be wrong. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Susanna, if you had a chance to look back for, say, 5 or 10 years, would that collection rate, is it in that 92 to 95%?
Except for during the last recession we had back from the 08, those were a lot lower, but the last 6 years, we've been holding pretty close to 94, 95% collection rates. So we try to budget at 94, knowing we're probably going to collect 95 typically. We budgeted a little bit less this time because we weren't really sure.
Okay.
So.
All right, thanks.
So our collection rate shows that our city is in a stable place. The one thing that you can't see when you're comparing the budget to actuals is really what's happening to the actual the tax assessed value. And I don't know if you guys remember, but a while back I gave you that big long slide from 08 to now, and we talked about the collection rate and the assessed value, and how it was at 6 point something percent, and it declined, and it's taken over 10 years. And finally, last year, we hit 5.1% increase for the assessed value. So and then boom, here's your results. Our assessed value only grew 3.7%. So we did see a loss in our assessed value, which is why you're still seeing that we're hovering in that 2 million range of collection, because we're not catching back the assessed value in that consistent growth. We should see 3, 4, 5% every year increase in our assessed value. So this is the behind the scene pieces that affect how we determine our budget. This fiscal year, I only did a 3% estimate growth in our assessed value. So with 3.7 being what we actually ended with, I'm hoping that we really end up this year as well, the new fiscal year, with a little bit higher. So you can see where that's at. Any questions on that? I know that the property tax is complicated. Hopefully that was simple enough.
So Susanna, they did increase, but they didn't increase as much as they did the increase wasn't as high as it was last year.
Correct. Last year we had a 5.1% increase in our assessed value. This year we only had 3.7. So yes.
How does How is that calculated?
It's whatever the Marion County does when they're looking, I don't know the weeds on how they do it, but they take a look at all of our properties and they come up with an assessed value. They decide how much our increase is based on. And then that increase times our tax rate tells us what we should collect.
Okay.
So they say we collect 2.4 million is what they think. We budget at 94, be a little bit less. So that's how it's kind of driven.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. I just wait for their letters to come to me. But I have it, I follow it. Any other questions on property tax before I move, or do I move on to the next category? No, okay. So our charge for service looks really huge. We're like, wow, look at that, what happened in there. But there's a lot of things that happen in our charge for service. The majority of the increase from our charge for service is really the SDC funds, because the Taco Bell project was completed and some other projects is really what drove our charge for service. Because and my next slide is going to show you, we had a loss to, we had no facility rentals, we had a loss to the pool, but with all of those losses, but the SDC funds, it was higher. So it looks like, wow, we did really good. But if you break it down into the buckets of categories, because SDC funds are specialty funds that have to be tied to city's growth for those projects. So these three slides show you the SDC increase, and these slides are the 3 fiscal years, each one of them at the same time, ending June 30th of 19 in the green. Red is June of 20, and blue is the June of 21. I think it's kind of cute that that the graph automatically made it red when that's the hardest part of the pandemic. Thought that was kind of interesting. And you can see, looking at these 3 years, you can see the results of the pandemic and how much it pulled down our revenues. And then you can see how we're starting to climb back up. So this is a really nice one to really give you a big picture of it. You can see that our utility revenues are almost back up to what they were in 19. So operations are moving forward with, and we've also had growth in the city. We've built those new homes and we now have more people. So that's helped that as well. And then the SDC funds, and then losing the pool still, you can see the decrease there because the other things. And so that's kind of your nice picture of what really happened in a little more detail to the charge for service. Any questions on any of that? Okay. So then we take a look at our intergovernmental. So this one also shows us an increase, but we got the increases because we had a lot of one-time funding. CARES Act provided money. We got ARPA money early for gas tax, so our streets got an additional tax revenue that we weren't expecting. And we also saw an increase of liquor tax. So those combinations of those things is really what drove us to have an increase in our intergovernmental funds compared to last year. The other revenues is a combination of our franchise fees and our interest. There's some miscellaneous and things in there, but the two main things that are in there is our interest rate and our franchise fees, and both of those have seen a loss. Our interest rate went from 2 point something down to 0.75, so we lost a lot of interest. And as well as our overall franchise fees ended up 5% lower than they were the prior year. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Sorry, I was looking at my, I apologize.
Is it too simplistic to say on that economic effect intergovernmental that people were driving more and drinking more?
Definitely drinking more, definitely drinking more. That was a surprise for me to see that increase. But the ODOT gave us $118,000 from their ARPA funds, from their formula calculation of our anticipated loss in gas tax, because gas tax was running really low most of the fiscal year. So this 118 actually helped us come up to about what we budgeted or a little bit more. So whatever formula they used was pretty accurate for what we had lost. So in continuing on the topic of the gas itself, you can see that the local gas tax is starting to climb up. People are driving more and more compared to last fiscal year, so that's nice. So there's the increase for the local tax here in town. And then you can see the ARPA funds and then what we actually collected for gas tax. And you can see that it did push us up above last year. And even pushed us above what we did in 2019, because 19 is a good marker because that's the normal, nothing special happened there, where 20 we had pandemic, fire, ice storms, outages, all kinds of things, right? So you can see that things are starting to move. And then this slide really is just to give you an overall picture, removing SDC funds, give you an overall picture that you can see that taxes have barely started to climb up. Charge for service has a little bit more or less increase. And intergovernmental has the bigger one. And then our other ones is still a little bit low. But that's a nice visual of the overall total revenues without the SDCs comparing year to year. Any questions on the revenue pieces? Okay. So then we switch gears and we take a look at the expenditures. You can see from the expenditures that our salaries come out of 53%, just above, and 37 for the materials and services and 11 for our capital outlay projects. And overall, we did about 70% of our expenditures compared to budget. So as we said earlier, we really did pull down, the team really was very proactive in keeping that lower. Because our salaries are higher than 52%, generally speaking. So then I put a nice slide together so you can kind of see the differences of the three categories compared to last year to this year. You can see that we had in 22, oops, I put 22 by mistake. Should have been 20 to 21. So that's a boo-boo. Says it should be just looking at last year and then this year. You can see how much we didn't spend by tightening the bucket down as much as we could. So that's a nice visual of that decrease we did. And then the capital outlay, we only completed a little over 900,000 of the 2.2 million that we budgeted. And like I said before, in the prior quarters, those were all capital projects that were already in the works, and we had outside partners, and it was wise to complete those projects, and we held back on the other ones. Any questions on the expenditures? We kind of went through it in the revenue part too, but. Okay. And of course, as we as counselors have asked, that we want to update every time I talk about the pool. So I thought I'd put up here our new hours of operation that just went into effect, and just some exciting news. So we've had our first week of aerobics classes in the morning and in the evenings. We've had about 10 people show up for each classes for the morning and the evenings, which was kind of surprised me because we weren't really sure. We haven't done a lot of aerobic classes in the evenings, but they ended up with just as much attendance as the morning, and they're different people coming. So that was very exciting. Our family day on Saturdays, we're getting up to about 35 kids showing up to the pool to swim. We run this now that we've got more staff. The first couple of Saturdays we couldn't have the slide on, but now we have the slide running on the Saturdays. And we've also added some more fun water games that the families can, or anybody can check out and use anytime the pool's open. So we've added some diving games and we found a volleyball net that they can have, and then we've pulled the basketball out so they rotate playing the basketball or the volleyball or doing the diving games. And so we have all those there for them to check out and use. So that's going really well. The manta rays has started in the afternoon, late afternoon evenings for the swim teams. The high school swims teams will be starting after school on November 15th. So we're excited about that. And the swim teams go all the way to February. Our tentative goal at this point is to start swimming lessons in January. And then, of course, the Kiwanis program is going to restart so that the elementary schools surrounding us and our elementary schools, the third graders, can come and do their swimming lessons in the spring, which is March, April. And so those will be going. So that's kind of where we are now. We're still hiring so we can continue to expand, but these hours will be what the pool will be doing until January at this point, between what staffing we have and getting them trained to do more classes as well, and the swim team taking up the afternoons for now. So that's the excitement of the pool. And so for everyone that's come to the pool has been very, very happy, very pleased. We've done 3 birthday parties so far with private rentals. They've loved it. They had a ball. They enjoyed the extra things that we have for like the slide and that kind of stuff. So that's been very successful. So far, who the people we see face to face are very happy. Any questions about the pool?
That Learn to Swim program, that is the Kiwanis, that's third graders, right?
Yes, they pay for the third graders, yep.
So, what, 7, 8-year-olds? 8-year-olds.
I think that sounds about right, yep. Yeah. So far, Mill City's the only school that's contacted us, but we will, as it gets closer to the first of the year, Emily will be reaching out to the schools, because I've already spoke with the Kiwanis, and they're excited the program's back up and running, so we're excited to see what those results look like as well.
Any more questions for Susanna? Good presentation, thank you.
And just to wrap it on, of course, even though this fiscal year ended in a positive with higher revenues anticipated and with the lower, we continue to monitor, we continue to report to you on a regular basis, because the budget is alive and always being watched. Any other questions? Then that completes my presentation for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. What else have we got tonight? Public comment, we get that, Doug? Is there any public comment on the fiscal report? No? Council discussion? Anything else that we haven't yacked about with regard to Susanna's presentation? Communications from city staff. Anything, Alyssa?
Yes, I actually have a couple items tonight.
Good,
I'll
go ahead.
start with the, maybe not so exciting one. Just a reminder that we have a work session next Monday at 6 o'clock.
When?
Next Monday,
Next Monday,
November
okay.
8th at 6 o'clock. It's
Okay.
to talk about the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, funding and projects with the management team.
Okay.
We'll have a presentation for you guys. And so,
That's here, right?
yes, it'll be here at the community center.
Okay, it's 6.
Yep, 6
Okay.
o'clock.
All right, good.
And then I'm going to open my phone here real fast because I wanted to talk about something the Stayton Police Department is doing during the month of November. They're doing No Shave November, and that kicked off today. They were challenged by Almsville Police Department to see which department can raise the most money during the month of November. So if you go out onto our Facebook page or look on our website, we've got all the information posted there. We've partnered with the SANIAM Service Integration Team, who will be helping us collect the money. Donations so all the officers that are participating, they donated to be a part of it. And then on top of that, we're asking the public to also help the police department meet their goal. And if you go look, they are all very clean shaven. I challenge you to try to identify some of them in there, because there is one person who has shaved and only one person at the police department was actually able to identify who it was. It took me a minute to sit and stare at the picture to figure out who this individual was clean shaven, because I had never seen it before. So
Where does the money go?
it is going to the Cancer Fund. So the Sanium Service Integration Team is going to help us collect it, and then at the end of November, they'll be donating that money to that Cancer Fund. And we'll also be sharing updates throughout the month, and there's even a little fun No Shave November for the ladies at the police department. I'll leave it at that. It may not be what you think.
That would be interesting.
But they are, we'll be having some more posts and fun throughout the month. And additionally, they'll also be awarding best beard, bushiest beard, those kinds of prizes. And anyone from the public who does donate, they're putting their name into a drawing to win lunch with Chief Friesendahl.
Okay.
And those are all the updates that I have.
I have a question, Alyssa.
Yeah.
So to get the public involved, are we like voting for the best beards and you have to donate to be able to vote?
I don't know about that. I believe that what we're going to do towards the end of the month or at the end of the month is post pictures and then ask people to vote on it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm glad they're having fun.
Yes.
Is there a category for the most scraggliest beard?
Maybe.
I'll get in that one.
I think there was a Paul Bunyan-like beard.
Paul Bunyan.
Yes.
Oh, boy. What was I going to? Oh, thinking about voting, I hope everyone's had a chance or taken the opportunity to put in a ballot on that fire levy. Tomorrow's the deadline, so get it in. And the bunch of old coots I have coffee with in the mornings are convinced that elections are all frauds, so I'm going to stir them up tomorrow morning by telling them I saw somebody drive by with a pickup load of ballots, dumping them in the box. That's just 3 or 4 guys, so it doesn't go very far, but we'll see what they do. They'll go crazy, which is that's what I'm trying to do, so. Anyway,
Was it Joe? Mr. Mayor,
yes,
do you have an update on our counselor recruitment?
on which?
Our counselor recruitment for
Yeah,
open
there's,
seats?
I just saw the names tonight, but there were 6. And let's see, you've got that
Do-
timeline.
Yes. Do you want me to go talk about that? Yes.
What would you like to hear first, the names or the timeline?
Let's do the timeline.
Do timeline. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so let me pull that back up. I was trying to be prepared. So the last time that we went through this vacancy, I had to dig in to remember what we did. It wasn't even that long ago that Ben joined us, but I could not remember. So what we did last time is we accepted the letters of interest, and then we invited the potential candidates to come to a council meeting and speak they had the 3-minute time slot of why they were interested in the council vacancy. And then the council members, I believe, were able to ask questions. And so, I had sent the mayor a potential timeline that we could invite candidates to the council meeting on November 15th and have them come before, and then we can, from there, the mayor can decide about when he wants to bring forward an appointment. And, from there, we do the council would have to affirm his appointment and training and all that fun stuff that happens prior to their first meeting on the council. And so now that we have kind of that finalized, and the letters will be included in the next council packet, and if the council wishes to see them prior to that, I'm happy to send them out.
Okay, names. In no particular order, Michelle Wunderling and Mark Cronquist and Peter Bellis. And like I said, I just saw first time I saw these was tonight. Brian Quigley, Stephen Sims, and Jordan Lambert. So there's the 6. So should be interesting. Should be, okay. And you're going to make sure everyone
Yeah.
gets these?
Yes, I'll distribute those to the council, and I will send out an invitation to all of
Okay.
them to join
Good,
us
good,
at the
good.
next council meeting. It'll be at the top of the agenda under appointments. We'll
Okay.
have them come and speak.
Sounds good. Oh, I don't have anything else this evening. My wife said you need to tell everyone that we've got a rat problem in town. And she's been catching them, and neighbors been catching them, or the cats are catching them. And she was curious, and I guess I am too. Is it a widespread problem in the neighborhoods? Yes, no, maybe.
We just have a skunk problem in our area, so
Okay.
they love to come in all our backyards.
Yeah.
Apparently there's like 3 of them.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got. What do you folks have? Anything? Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I'm excited to hear all those names.
Oh, okay.
That was, thank you for sharing them.
Yeah, no, like I say, I just got them tonight, so I knew there were 6, but other than one that called me, I didn't know who the others were, so, yeah. And she'll get those to you
Probably tomorrow morning.
probably tomorrow morning.
Yes.
How about that?
Well, I look forward to hearing which one
Are-
is your top pick that you would like us to consider, because I know it's, you put the appointment forward. I know we go through the process,
Of
but
course, because I've worked with him so much, Brian Quigley.
I think it would serve us very well to have experience on the council
As far
again.
as experience and, yeah, but that's just me. I mean, you folks may have others, and we'll get to listen to all of them, and that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it'll be good to hear everybody.
With elections coming up, we're just a year away, and we've got what, 3, 4 positions open?
Well, 3 counselor and 1 mayor.
Yeah,
Mayor
yeah, one, 2, 3.
Yeah, so 4.
David,
Yeah,
4.
just
So,
for
yeah,
the-
that's going to be an interesting election.
For anyone that's watching, my seat and Council Ort's seat and Councilor Patty's seat are up for election again, and then also the mayor's seat is up for election. And you're not able to run per the code again, right? Like 2 terms in a row, isn't that what it is? Isn't that what it says? I don't know. I can't remember it off the top, but
80 years old isn't going to help, so, no, I'm done. But that's fine. That's been a great run.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
are we still accepting any more applications, or is it cut off?
Good question.
What we put out there was that we were going to do a review on, as of, like, basically shut it at October 29th, but still accept them until the vacancy's filled. So I would say if something did come in between now and before we put the packets out for the next meeting, we could probably consider inviting them as well
Okay.
to come.
You folks okay with that, or, I mean, or does it kind of drag things out?
I think if people still want to put their letter of interest in, does it really?
But if we've announced, we've had a month or 6 weeks to,
Well, what I would say is it would need to be before the council packet goes out, because we're going to put their letters in the council packet. And then from there, if the council or the mayor, if you decide that, oh, I'm not going to appoint anyone from this, then we would start looking at a second review. That's kind of how we run sometimes recruitments that are ongoing, is we have a first review that's during this time period. And then if we don't find anything there, then we go to the next review
Okay,
period.
all
So.
right.
Well, it really just is in
Okay.
that person's best interest
That's
to get
fine.
it in prior to.
good question, though.
Yeah, prior to, it would be, off the top of my head, November 10th would be the day that the next council packet goes out. So before that day, not on the 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? It's only 8:30. You ready to go home? Let's go home. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, folks.